Hi, my name is Vig, and this is another episode of Quick Draw, where I talk about small, interesting things that I find in film. It is impossible to make an anti-war film, or so Francois Truffaut was widely misattributed as declaring to an American magazine. In actuality, what the celebrated French filmmaker stated is simply that he personally had never seen an anti-war film, and was skeptical if it was possible to make one. But one of his key ideas that does form the basis of arguments against the concept of creating an anti-war film is the notion that action argues in favor of itself. The portrayal of gunfire and combat, even under brutal conditions and resulting in devastating consequences, will inevitably excite audiences and woo us with the spectacle of the heroic bravery of heading into battle. Take 1917, for example. For all its raw grit and tension, the film idealizes the epic journey of the young soldier and dazzles us with his actions to the point of inspiration. Or The Thin Red Line, which visually is such an overwhelmingly beautiful film that any displays of conflict feel more poetic than grim. Even explicit attempts to show the atrocities of war can't help but make the inherent violence on some level seem strangely alluring. Paths of Glory and all its anti-war themes can't help but instill a sense of grandeur and awe when swarms of soldiers dash into battle. And First Blood, which operates on a standalone level as a searing indictment of the military and its pathetic rehabilitation of soldiers, entices us so much with its exuberant combat that it spawned an entire franchise of less thoughtful, action-packed killing sprees. It turns out that even after witnessing the grown man cry from the trauma of his past, we still want to kick ass, like John Rambo. How then, with all this evidence to the contrary, is it possible to make an anti-war film? Well, if action argues in favor of itself, one solution could be to limit the use of action altogether. Come and See, the harrowing Soviet film, tells the perspective of Nazi genocide from a simple village boy, too young and ill-equipped to fight. Through his lens, we experience the devastation of war passively, wandering from atrocity to atrocity, without the agency to do much more than watch. Italian neorealist films like Rome Open City operate on a similar level, opting to show the resulting consequences of war far from the actual conflict. The lives of working-class people struggling to survive under oppressive conditions may strike some viewers as equally as heroic as their counterparts in the front line, sans the glory and satisfaction of bloodshed. But most war films necessitate the need for action. The actual engagement, after all, is a not-so-insignificant part of the whole ordeal. Is there then a way in such films to dilute the action and make it less captivating? Perhaps a good place to turn to is, of all places, Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. I will not go so far as to say that Saving Private Ryan is an anti-war film. Far from it, as above all, it gives utmost reverence to the sacrifice that brave soldiers make. There's also a pseudo-god sniper character, which maybe serves as an influence for both American Sniper and the fake Nazi propaganda film in Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds, not exactly making action look all that unappealing here. But there's an interesting element that's woven into the story that does much to de-glamorize the idea of war, specifically relating to the way that many minor characters perish. Let's call it the brutality of mayhem. Brutal in the sense that these deaths are cold and immediate, and mayhem in that they are incomprehensibly random. One expects loss in battle at the hands of an enemy, but to drown from actions of your own doing before you've even had a glimpse of combat? One expects explosions from mortar fire to tear you into pieces, but to be dragged into one at the hands of your own trusted captain? One expects military gear to have a small chance of protecting you from gunfire, but to experience this miracle firsthand, only to not learn the lesson and pay for it less than a moment later? The way that most war films entice you with action is to make it dramatic and rational. By dramatizing the action, it's given weight, feeling, emotion. Death on the battlefield means something. By making the action rational, it's given a purpose, a non-random chance event. But all the examples shown so far in Private Ryan have neither characteristics. The deaths are detached, cruel, quick, and bizarre, absurd, incidental. There's a purposeful subversion of expectations to display the honest side of how typical war story heroism may play out in reality. Here, Spielberg calls back to the classic imagery of brotherhood and bravery in war, soldier carrying soldier, arms wrapped around each other, bracing for combat. And then in the blink of an eye, completely takes the piss out of the whole damn concept. A moment of human ingenuity, using base raw materials to construct a weapon of significance, is completely negated because of accidental ineptitude. The bravery of a group of soldiers preparing for battle is demolished with a terrifyingly swift mowdown. Have you seen anything like this in a war film before? Is this exciting to you? Do you feel your inner Rambo yearning to be unleashed? I suspect not. Perhaps because in these flash moments, Saving Private Ryan has less in common with the panache of the action genre than it does with the slaughter of your average horror flick, where nothing can prepare a man for the cruelty of the incomprehensible phenomenon that awaits him. To quote Hemingway, that was what you did. You died. They threw you in and told you the rules, and the first time they caught you off base, they killed you. There's no denying that Saving Private Ryan is still ultimately a pro-war film, and large stretches of its story fall into many of the same familiar trappings of the genre in creating excitable and entertaining spectacle out of warfare. But it also at least counterbalances this with a glance, however so brief, at the merciless terror of war in a way that I don't believe has ever been done before.